Hi, everyone. I'm Vandana, and I am from Zua Life, where we support people who are navigating transitions. Our primary focus area are people who are midlifers and are transitioning in at work, in careers, that in life, in relationships, any aspect of it. Uh, this particular series is uh, transitions in my midlife, which are focused around work. And in this series, we have done many. Today, we bring in how does one transition into social impact. I mean, if that's been something that you're sitting with, and we have. We are very, very grateful to both Bachi and Ajit to be able to join us on this session. And I'll just give a very brief introduction. Ajit is a professional. He's been in a corporate role as an in OD, and he's been a storyteller, and has navigated and he's pivoted into social impact, doing similar work. And while he's done this, he's also been guiding people who are pivoting and wanting to experiment or look at how what social impact can be. Bachi is has been in the space of tech. He's been a tech entrepreneur, and right now has pivoted into social impact, building open networks for social good. And I will let Ajit and Bachi both introduce themselves in more in detail. So over to you guys, and thank you once again for joining us.
Go ahead, Ajit. We go in alphabetical order. Ajit, A and B. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Fine. Hi all. By way of professional introduction, I am an organization development professional. Uh, Spent most of my career in the consulting space. Uh, First 15 years in the corporate world, and I think when I was 38 is when I was convinced enough that I need to do something else and moved on into at least halfway into the social sector about 5.5 years back. So I wear three hats professionally. There is the OD consultant in the social sector world. Uh, I do some bit of teaching, and I also do some bit of corporate gigs here and there as an OD consultant. Based in Delhi most of the time. Uh, for the other part of the time, I'm based in Tiruvananthapuram, which is my hometown. Right. So yeah, that's me.
Um,
Over-
Firstly, yeah, thank you. Thank you, Vandana, for that intro. And then Ajit, thank you. Good knowing you once again with a different intro. Hi, everybody. My name is Bachi. Um, I've spent most of my life in technology, working in technology, breathing technology. And roughly 10 plus years back, I felt like I've reached this slightly dangerous stage of my career, um, where I felt like and I had enough experience back then to be useful, and also enough curiosity to keep asking whether I should do anything or using my experience slightly differently, That kind of a stage I was in, this exactly what, Vandana keeps saying, that midlife, that transition point. So I was at that point, and for the curious lot here, I am 56-year-old, so we are talking at least 10, 12 years back, what has happened, right? So that's when I was there in that point. So for me, the transition into the social impact, I didn't really look at it as, abandoning one career and then moving on to something else and, stuff like that. It was like more like, what can I do with the experience and the things that I know in a different world, if you will, right? And the world that is trying to make a difference to society. So that's the kind of a motivation, with which I transition into the social impact. I live in Bangalore full time with my wife, and we have a dog. And yeah, I'm from Andhra, but I don't think I'm qualified enough to call myself I'm from Andhra anymore because I've been living here in Bangalore for the last 25 years. So yeah, I'm a Bangalorean. Nice meeting you all. Thank you for making time and then joining this webinar.
Thank you so much, both of you. And Vidhi, I will just we have some small polls so that we get to know you better. If you could launch the first poll, and in the meanwhile, I also request you all to post your questions on the chat, and we can take all of those at the end of the session. So it will help us also curate the questions accordingly. It will be so. Please. Yeah, so while the poll is being answered, I have uh, some questions just as cues for both of you. And uh, so, like you said, that you did not switch from from corporate to this, but what was that trigger that made you even think about, which you're saying is around midlife, into the social impact center, or of doing tech for good kind of a space? And what was the trigger, if I may ask?
Geek, technology, we are like, what do you call, bound by these patterns and sorting and, all that stuff. So thank you for the cue. Yeah, Vandana, I mean, like I was mentioning as part of my introduction, I was just going through this thought process, and I kind of decided to give myself, a little bit more time rather than just making it look like a passing thought. Most of the time, that's what happens. It just passes you at that moment, and then it just vanishes, right? And you just get back to, at least in my case, it happens. I can speak by myself. You get back into the grind all over once again. So this time around, I don't know, this feeling was so strong. And then I said, okay, I need to give myself a time. So I gave myself a 2 year sabbatical break. And then, okay, let me try out, right? What are the various things that I would like to do. So I tried my hand in teaching, and then I taught in a lot of colleges, small and mid, really small colleges. And then I, worked with a couple of startups, I mean, really young startups, bootstrapped and, stuff like that, doing what I know, the technology. And then it almost took, in my case, it took for me at least 2 years before I really narrowed down to saying that, okay, I really want to do this. But I really, at the same time, I know only one thing. Even today, I know only one thing. That is technology. That is the only thing that I know. I said, okay, what can I do using this, what I know? And then what are the other things that I would like to do? So I just went with the magic number of three, saying that, okay, technology must be there in whatever I do. And next is, I absolutely love working with people. So I said, okay, what I do should involve working with people in some capacity, either in the learning capacity or in the mentoring capacity. The third point was like, okay, the reason for the sabbatical, right? Okay, what is that I can do now to that would directly or indirectly impact the society? In the sense, I did not like, say like impact doesn't mean for me being on the field. Yes, absolutely. That has the maximum impact. But in my case, like, for me, these other two things are also important, equally important for me to kind of wake up every day morning and then do what I want to do. So then I said, okay, let me do this. And then once I had the clarity, like they say, automatically the paths will show up. They light up. I mean, they're all there right in front of you every single day, but it's just the clarity, right? Once you have the clarity in your head, the paths lit up, and then I chose a path, and then that's it. Once the leap of faith took place, like they said, rest is history. So I continue to tread in that path in whatever capacity that I can. So my journey started, Vandana. Long answer, sorry about that. Yeah, Ajit, over to you.
Right. Thanks. I think for me, the triggers were in my childhood and my teenage. The courage to do something happened much later. Look, I grew up in the villages of Malabar to begin with, studying in a Malayalam medium school. Before my father got transferred to the city, and they put me into an English medium school, and suddenly, I went through that feeling that I'm not able to hold a conversation because it was compulsory in my school to speak in English, and the only three words that I could speak confidently were yes, no, and what. So uh, going through that was not easy. And then as I grew up, I realized how privileged I was to have access to education that was in a way a passport to employability. Uh, so that thing to do something on education was always there. That seed was there, but didn't know how, what. Uh, that was definitely missing. The second trigger happened in my teenage when Kargil happened, and I was clear that I've been born to join the Air Force and do something. Uh, Air Force didn't happen for me. Good for the country, uh, but then I didn't find peace with this, that I'm not doing something for the country. That in Hindi we use the term kida. That kida, that I'm not doing something, was there. Again, I didn't know how. So that chosen identity of patriot was very strong, but it was I think it was just limited to cheering for India in the cricket matches, right? So nothing really was answering that uh, gap that was left in my life after the Air Force thing for me. The third was more personal. Look, my mother comes from a fairly uh, economically underprivileged background. So I have heard stories. I have not lived those stories, but I have heard stories. Something I knew very clearly was that it is education that pulled that family out of poverty.
Yeah.
So these were some of the triggers that were there in childhood and teenage. By the time I became an adult, one of the things that struck me was, uh, I mean, as any city resident would go through, problems related to traffic, urbanization, and all that. Suddenly, you realize, I'm myself a migrant here. Why am I here? Because I don't have job in my jobs in my place, and that's true for a whole lot of rural India. So there's a lot of urbanization that happens because you don't have enough livelihood options in
Yeah.
places where people are growing up. So that thought that something should be done. Now the thing is, something should be done. I didn't know how and what. My first exposure to the social sector happened in 2011 when I was still part of the corporate world. As part of one of the projects that we did pro bono, there was a project we did in Karnataka in a couple of gram panchayats. So two things struck me. One, the work that I do in the corporates is still meaningful outside the corporate world. And two, uh, there is a lot to be done in this world outside of what I'm doing in my corporate office. But I did not have the courage to get out of my job because it was paying me well, and I was too scared to get into something which I thought would not pay me well enough. So that was my trigger, and I tried twice. Priyambada's asked here if there are options of full-time options. In fact, I did get one in 2017. At the last moment, the person who was to hire me asked this question: "What are you prepared to sacrifice?" And my CTC was not one of those things that I was prepared to sacrifice. I didn't have the courage again. It was only in 2021 when I realized that now I've had enough. If I don't do something now, I'll end up moving from one place to another, finding my sense of purpose. That pushed me into this. That's my long story.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing this and your fears, your vulnerabilities. This needs courage for sure to share because, yes, I think that paycheck coming home is so important for all of us, right? And that's a huge, sometimes a barrier to pivot into something which might not pay you as well as what you've been paid in corporate world. So, yeah, I mean, this is something that I was going to ask it, and thank you for bringing it up upfront. Yeah, Bachi, if I were to come back to you and say that, what did you have to unlearn to be in this space?
Okay, the most, how do I put it? See, by being in the corporate or in the non-social impact world for a certain period of time, right? Typically, you are making these choices. There are lucky few who would have started their career in social impact. That's a different thing. And the reference is like people like me who made that switch, right? There is this very strong corporate muscle that we built. Okay, what do I mean by corporate muscle? Um, Title to start with, right? Hey, I am vice president, or I am a lead, I'm a manager, whatever that might be. That's a title. That's the thing that you very, very strongly associate with. And depending on the position that you are at in that particular corporate, there is a certain amount of authority also you would have
Of
experienced, right?
course.
And then, of course, you have these, if not unlimited, you have this freedom to spend. There are budgets given to you, and plan your team outings or whatever that might be, run your DU, business DU, etc. And of course, patience is definitely not one of the muscles that you develop there. You develop the muscle to move fast, right? Speed, competition, uh, return on investment. I mean, you name these things. All these things are becomes part of your muscle. So I just want to let you know one small thing here. Um, I am not on LinkedIn, and there is a reason why I'm not on LinkedIn. After my first year of switching to social impact, I've realized I am still that identity. That is the ego. That is the one that I'm still carrying. And that is not applicable here. And that nothing should remind me of my past. My experience will remain with me. That's fine. But this muscle for me to get rid of, I need to shed these identities, right? That day, I went and deleted my LinkedIn account. This was like more than 10, 15 years back. And trust me, it worked for me. Okay. Suddenly, I don't have 500 plus connections, 10 people, 100 people giving you recommendations. That identity is gone. I mean, we need to really, really, leave that identity. So that is something that we have to unlearn. For me, that unlearning is doing things like this, right? So basically, once you lose that identity in whatever form and fashion, you'll become a little bit more easier, right? Easily, because you are like one of them. You have to be one of them to be part of them, to work with them, right? Basically in business, what happens? You're given a team, some money, and target, sales guy, you have to start revenue, if you're a delivery guy, you have to do this, blah, blah, right? And you are like very focused, delivery focused, and then you like, you have to deliver an outcome given the budget, given all the resources that you have. In the social impact also, people don't give you money, but they'll give you a problem. Okay. If that problem is there's not only one problem, I think they'll give many problems, right? You need to take it. Which is exactly the reason why whoever wants to switch is, has to really understand you will not have budget, but you will have many problems to solve. Many problems to solve where you might have to figure out outcomes. You don't even know what the outcome is. If I'm a sales guy in the corporate world, I know I have to meet whatever $2 million target per quarter. That's I know what I'm chasing. Here, you don't even know what you are chasing sometimes, or most of the times, right? If you are lucky, if you know what you are chasing and what the outcome you are going after, but most of the times, no. So that is the unlearning. That is the real new learning that you have to do. According to me, these are the kind of an experience that I've gone through when I switched over. Now I can't go that side because I built this muscle. So now, if somebody gives me an outcome of we have to make like, whatever number of dollars, it doesn't excite me. I mean, it really doesn't excite me. But if you say like, hey, we
Wow.
have this problem, and then can we solve this? Using technology, talking to the people, and then maybe we might look for this kind of an outcome because social impact outcomes take years. The seeds that were sown 15, 20 years back are fruitful today. It's like that, right? You cannot see change overnight. So these are some of the things that I think we have developed tremendous amount of patience. It can't be impatient at all in the social impact world. That's my biggest learning in the first few years. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. This is inspiring. This is also it requires a lot of courage. I to let go of an identity that existed and that you thrived on for earlier. So thank you for sharing this, and I'm sure everybody who's listening would. It's a good insight to know that what happens when you move into this segment. And uh, Ajit, to you, you have made this transition, and you also guide people who are transitioning into this space. What is that you see people struggling mostly with? I'm taking it from where Pachi left, perhaps, but
Yeah.
he spoke about one part.
So I think I'll probably pull on from what Bachi Garu just said about uh, the bit on identity. often the question is not so much about should I make a career shift or not. I think this is also a time when many of us are dealing with this question of what what is really relevant for me in my life, what matters for me, right? And in a way that triggers the clarity into the question of uh, what is the identity I'd like to choose for myself, maybe, right?
Mhm.
So I think a lot of this transition revolves around the question of clarifying identities. I think that is very, very important. Uh, Often there is a certain kind of an infatuation or a romanticization with the world of social sector. It feels good, okay. Many a times when I'm in, in from my college, my batch has just completed 20 years a few months back. So we've been having these multiple reunions. So, there's this thing, oh, this guy is, when we are working in New York and London, this guy is working in Chhattisgarh. There's a, there's a sense of uniqueness that comes with it. Uh, so for a lot of people, it is that uniqueness, the call of adventure. These are things which attract them to the sector. Also, many people find meaning in doing things that are more visibly important for the community. From saying that I have sold $50,000 worth of projects to saying, oh, I'm working in this school, it feels good. And it also answers the sense of purpose that many of us are asking ourselves, right? So the question is, do you really want it? Or is it something that is an idea that you're romanticizing with? So the difficulty is often in finding out what is infatuation and what is love. Infatuation leading to marriage is not likely to be long lasting or happy. The other one has greater chances of happiness and sustainability. So that transition and that question is something only people, who are, I mean, people need to be really asking themselves that question on why do I want to get into this? That's something that I've noticed as a challenge in transitions. And yeah, one more thing on maybe not really on a lighter note, but I've often found that this question becomes relevant when the economy is on a downturn. What if AI replaces my job tomorrow? What is my alternate source? Fair question. I need to start looking at what are the alternative options. And this is a sector which really values talent. And there's a lot of openings here, a lot of people who can do a whole lot of things. So in that sense, it's an excellent place to experiment. So that's the other bit.
So, in fact, I was going to ask this question about how much do we romanticize this part of moving into social impact. There's a poll that I also want, Vidhi, can you please launch it? It is around the same thing, right? What is your biggest barrier in joining this? And it'll help us also ask the next few questions. So, what do you think is your you know maybe your barrier, and please ask questions. It will make this conversation more meaningful and more relevant to you and what your needs are at this stage. And of course, if you don't have questions, I'm sure these guys are going to speak about things that will perhaps solve something for you. And so I, in fact, this was my next thing, that is, this do we romanticize this, sorry, this whole space of social impact, and what is reality? Anything that you would like to add, Pachi, to this?
Some of the points that I mentioned as part of this, like, unlearning part, right? I think if you have prepared yourself properly with the unlearning, which automatically, I think, our we are programmed to continuously learn. At some point, we'll tell ourselves, okay, I'm done with it, or my head is full, whatever. We'll give whatever
Yeah.
reasons and then stop learning. But unlearning is a wonderful opportunity to learn again because the system gets triggered automatically once you unlearn, right? So the learning automatically starts for you, right? So when it comes to romanticizing, in the sense like if you are grounded there, you wouldn't. You would only look at it extremely practically, and then maybe, if I may borrow the word Sajid has used, the infatuation stage won't be there. You will actually fall in love, right? Then and that's uh, it's like when you're matured enough and you know exactly what life is and you fall in love. I think that's a different experience altogether. So that is the feeling that you get it when you actually slowly immerse yourself and then start involving, start understanding the causes and all that stuff. So thankfully, I didn't go through that romanticizing phase that I completed during my teens when I was not in the social impact stage. So this was more like actually, for me, it is a career, right? In the sense, it's not like I didn't quit my job. I am continuing to work. Remember, technology was my common thread between that world and this world. So I am continuing to work. I'm continuing to provide the solutions. It's just that in a different space. So for me, it is like, yeah, it's not much. I mean, I'm sorry to disappoint many folks here, but it was, I guess, my first year of preparation helped me to kind of, look at it a lot more practically and realistically.
Of course, there's a lot of questions coming up around reflection, and there's a nice question for Ardeep. But before we go there, I just want to ask one question, which is very, um, I think, which influences a lot of us is money and compensation, and what is the trade off, right? If so, if there is, uh, can you both of you just share your experience and what has it been like? Like, I know, Ajit, that you have, kept doing three roles so that it takes care of certain, requirements, needs, as well as satisfies you. So it'll be great to hear a little more about from both of you around this part, because money is a driver, money is a requirement, and there is no qualms about, I mean, there shouldn't be any qualms about asking exactly what the trade-offs are. So Ajit, go first, since Bachi goes by
Okay,
alphabet.
I'll probably hazard a guess here based on my experience. My experience has been that if you're making anywhere between 30 to 50% of what you would have made in a corporate role, I think you would be amongst the more lucky people in this sector. That's so. I don't find the gap so much at the junior levels, but I do see the gap as one grows older in the mid levels and the senior levels.
Thank you for sharing that, Ajit. Bachi, your take on
That
this?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of transitioned myself into this space a little later, age-wise, experience-wise, as compared to Ajit. Ajit transitioned much earlier than me. So um, I was fortunate enough to kind of, take care of my family and my responsibilities. I have two kids. So I have planned basically financially a little bit, not like I didn't jump, without any this thing, right? Safety net. But I kept a couple of things, at highest priority. Like, for example, zero compromise on what my family needs. Okay, there is their lifestyle. Just because I chose to do something different, it is unfair of me to ask them to follow my path and then live in the way that whatever way that I was planning to live, right? I don't want to do that. If they choose to do it voluntarily, that's a different thing, right? So I put that as my non-negotiable. I said, okay, what does it take for me to do something like this? And then I went in with planning into the system. So my expectations were like, close to zero. I mean, practically, in this entire time frame of my social impact thing, Not even once I have asked, saying that negotiated. Let me put it that way. There's no negotiation. It's always, what that particular system can offer me to take it. So I only looked at that income, if I can call it, so only to take care of my needs. And then whatever this thing is, I just plug it back into the family requirements. Right? That's the planning that I did because I had that kind of a privilege and opportunity to do that, and I was able to do it, and then it was a lot easier. Yes, there will be, a lot of things you have to, let go, in the sense, you absolutely cannot lead the same life like you are leading, materialistically speaking, in the other side. Uh, we are remarkable people. I mean, human beings are remarkable. We can get adjusted to anything. Just challenge yourself, and you'll be surprised when you look back and then say, "Oh, I lived not bad, yeah." It's you get that feeling for sure. So that's my that's how I did. I handle my financial side of things. Yeah.
Thank you,
I'll
both
just
of you, for
add on
sharing.
something to this. I'll just
Yes,
add on
please.
something. Unlike Bachi, I was one of those people who completely went in unplanned. Okay, it was again a call of adventure. So the only thing was I asked my wife's permission. Is it okay if I don't,
Good
right?
man.
Yeah, yeah. Domestic bliss was most important. So, and I was, uh, there have been times, and I saw Arijit's question which said, after making the transition, did you regret? There have been times, okay, especially in the initial part of my transition, where when I would see people from my previous organizations or my own peers, there would be a tendency to compare. I have gone through that. And I have gone through those moments where I have felt in the need for adventure, have I ended up compromising on something which I could have done differently? I've gone through those moments. I've gone through moments of high self doubt. It's stayed on with me for some time, but I've noticed over a period of time that why is very clear here, and therefore it doesn't matter. But it has taken me some time to get there. It has taken me uh, moments of high insecurity, doubt, um, many a times asking myself, should I try looking at getting back a corporate role? Gone through that. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ajit. That requires a
Yeah.
lot of courage to share it
Yeah.
and say it also. And yes, I'm sure this is the, though you look at a bigger picture, purpose, everything, there are times when, you do reflect and say, did the choice you make set you back in your career? And you both are at two different ends of the spectrum, right? Ajit, you started very early, in Bachi, you were at a stage where you could make the choice with much more awareness and intention, for that matter. So yeah, Bachi, you want to say something?
No, I didn't mean to interrupt you. So I just wanted to say that we have a bunch of questions, actually quite interesting questions on the chat that I'm
Yes,
seeing.
yes, yes, I
Uh,
am. So
shall we?
I'm
Yeah.
just.
Shall we
I
go
think
ahead? I mean, yeah. So
absolutely, absolutely. So,
it becomes a lot more interactive. Yeah.
Priyamvad says,
Priyambad,
do we need to take a sabbatical before we plunge into the social segment?
there is
Uh, Clear
one
the
more
mind.
before. Sorry,
Uh,
Vandana. There is one
no,
more.
yeah, I think that was Arjit, and I think kind
Priyambad
of
has asked, how do I know what of my current skill sets are
okay. I'm
useful to make a meaningful and
oh
fulfilling
sorry, I
transition?
missed that. Thank you so much, Bachi, for pointing that
Okay.
out.
I would like to take a
Yes,
stab at it, Ajit, with your permission first. It's a very interesting question, right? Like, most of the times, this is very analytical. This is how our brain works. This is what our left brain does to us, right? So it's like, okay, do you have the skills? Can you do it? Yes, no. Right brain is screaming on the other side saying that do it, man. I mean, what are you worried about, right? But we don't hear. We hear the left brain, the analytical side of it. Nothing wrong. All of us go through it. I went through it. I still go through it, which is fine because once the data points are presented to us, we tend to analyze, as simple as that. There's no why here, right? It's like what and how questions will come. So I would say that you know don't start with, okay, what kind of a job that I get. The minute you start looking at the skills, you start looking at the job way, right? That is not what you have to look at. For me, it's like, okay, what is the problem that I want to solve? Remember, you already have an experience, you already have skills. What is the problem that I want to solve? And then map your skills to that problem and say, okay, every problem, and my skill, thankfully, is applicable in all the problems to a large extent. So it's a lot easier for people like me, and then to kind of really pick the problem that I like to do. But for some people who are like really specialized skills, right? Maybe they might have to, naturally, they will also look for that kind of sectors. A healthcare professional would look for a, healthcare domain because that's a domain that they're more connected with. So that's the most important thing. What problems, can I solve, right? That's domain, technology, skills, whatever that might be, right? And then see which sector needs that. And then this is the most important thing, Priyamwal, if I can say so. What problem solving gives me the energy? Remember, it is going to put a lot of demand on the energy that you have. But you have to also find ways to derive energy while solving and while being part of that particular problem that you have chosen. That's why it's important that you choose the problem, right? It's okay. This is where the romanticizing, the fantasizing thing might come into the play, right? Oh, you said, oh, Aditi is doing such a wonderful job, organizational development, whatever. I also want to do that. That solving that problem might actually take a lot of your energy away. Okay, you get inspired by Ajit, but that is Ajit's energy giving problem that he is solving while expending energy. Your problem could be very, very different. You don't equate, I have to do the same thing. Your problem could lie in some other domain, livelihoods or education or healthcare or what sanitary, whatever that may be, climate. So picking the problem is extremely important. Not only that, that problem should give you energy. Very, very critical. That's something that I can say extremely confidently for you to stay here in this particular sector.
Thank you so
Yep.
much. Just a second, I seem to have lost the chat for some reason. Just a second. Okay, so can we take the next? Another question from Priyamba is how do we engage full time instead of part time engagement as not only a social responsibility but as an alternative career option? So, any
I,
of you can take.
yeah, I think just like you have corporate recruiters, you have people who recruit in the social sector. In fact, if you, I mean, the equivalent of a Naukri.com would be something like a DevNet jobs, where you go and there are a host of full-time jobs that you'll find there. And in your social network, you'll find people, uh, who are hiring for the social sectors. You will always find full-time options and part-time options. My own personal experience has been it's easier to get part-time options in the social sector than it was in the corporate sector. That's been a very, very personal experience because your skills will be of use in wherever you go. Okay. The question is, where do you find energy, as Bachi said, right? So, is that a problem you really want to solve? And probably I'm going to stretch that a bit to the question which I think Akansha has asked, where she says,
Yes.
how does one zero in on the sector? So, again, it depends on what are you really passionate about. I'll give you examples. When this COVID crisis hit, there was a lot of problem around migrant labor. So I know a lot of people who did work in that space for a temporary period of time because they felt that was the most important problem to be solved in their lives. And then eventually they moved back to doing what they were doing. So there will be different phases in life where you feel something is important. When I started out, I thought education is what I will end up working on. I ended up eventually working on livelihoods, health, local governance, different places, different problems, something which, anything which I felt, this is something I really want to be associated in, having a small role in solving. So it's one, a question of personal choice, two, a question of the context that you are in your life, niyati. So that's the thing.
Thank you, Ajit, for that. There's something that I want to check: that how important is your network when you're entering this space, or networking when you're entering this space? Any of you
Well,
can take, Bachi, Ajit, whosoever
yeah.
finds it.
Um, Definitely useful. Networking is something that is no doubts about it, right? It is applicable and then useful in any space that you are in. No difference here, right? Because it just opens up that many more avenues. But I am also a firm believer in, you know, where there is a will, there is a way, right? You will always find a way if there's a will. So that is equally important too. Just networks alone don't cut it. I mean, I know people, who are like super well connected, but they're just not able to, do whatever they want to do. I mean, nothing, I'm not judging them. I'm just saying, right? Facts. I'm stating. It's so for me, what is the takeaway from there? It's not about only the network. Networking helps, knowing people helps, but it is not just network alone take you where you want to go, right? You can always because Ajit was mentioning these sectors are always looking for help, right?
Yeah.
So you just have to offer. You just have to offer. They will embrace you. Part time, full time, 1 hour a week, 5 hours a week. I mean, there are organizations they can take your help, yeah, in anything that you can offer. So I think we should shy away from saying that, oh, I should know people only when I go there. Only then I will be allowed to come in. All those things we should, dispel all those things and then say, just walk in confidently, write to the people, the sect, do your research, figure out these are social impact organizations that are doing this work in these areas. This work interests me. Write to them. Definitely they will come back to you. Okay. That's the experience that I've had having worked with the social impact organizations directly. That's how they actually recruit talent. They reach out, and then we can also reach out, and that's somewhere we will meet. That's my, answer for that.
Thank you, Bachi. I think, I mean, it satisfies me. If anybody else has a question, please ask. Uh, just adding to this, I just want to ask, what are or that people enter this sector with, and then perhaps sometimes struggle. So, is there anything, Ajit, you might want to say,
Sorry,
and
what I
Bachi?
missed the first part of the question. What are the?
Misconceptions that people enter this sector with, and then kind of get disillusioned, or
I'll tell you about my misconceptions and something which I have seen. I was naive enough to think that politicking is something that happens only in the corporate world.
Mhm.
Um, it happens wherever human beings are involved, right? So uh, it's a bit similar to what I went through when I did my first project with a hospital. Long years back, young consultant, I thought doctors, equivalent to gods, they will not engage in these things. I realized so wherever there are human beings, that will happen. So that is one misconception. Uh, uh, to me, the second one that I went through was uh, look, uh, I took great pride in this that, uh, and I'm saying this very consciously. Pride is the word, perhaps even arrogance. I am choosing to move out of the corporate world to, serve social communities. I went through all that, and I thought there will be a greater appreciation for the sacrifice I have made. Nothing like that happens. What matters is, can you relate to the people you're working with and the problem that you're trying to solve? These are very personal things that have happened with me. I can, and uh, the other bit is that people often think that the talent density is higher in the corporate world than in the social sector world. What I have found is that when you move into the social sector, you start appreciating different types of talent. Because when I was working in the corporate world, I would typically work with people who are engineers, MBAs, who've been tested out for their analytical abilities, communication skills, right? And suddenly you are seeing a whole lot of new skills which you have not seen before, creative skills, ability to connect. Uh, uh, I've seen intelligences which I have not seen in the corporate world. So it was a misconception in my mind, and I have seen this in many other people who think that the talent density quotient is going to be lesser.
I just love the authenticity and the vulnerability that you bring into this conversation. It does require a lot of courage, and kudos to you both. Having the courage to do whatever you've done and to be able to own that you thought that this was some big deal that you were doing, and then very nice. I love it. And, Rajat, if you can speak now, do you want to take a chance and pose your question? Um, Anybody else? I think I have kind of run out of questions. Anything else that you want to share? You think that is an important insight that people can benefit from Bachi and Ajit both, because uh, this is it is a very unique kind of you don't get groomed per se to be in this segment. I mean, of course, there are some institutes who do, but still, I mean, lived experience is what we want to uh, hear about from you, both of you.
Ajit?
So I'll talk about one lived experience which has changed me in more ways than just professionally. Um, and this is a reflection I had this afternoon as well. I was in this place called Aero City in
Yes.
Delhi, and it's pretty hot and humid right now in Delhi. And I saw people wearing blazer and formal suits walking, and that's a life I've lived in my yesterday, especially during my consulting days, right? And in my mind, like the typical Delhiite, I'm thinking, "Kya bewakoof hai," which is how foolish that in this heat you're wearing this. Uh, it's brought in a lot more authenticity into just how I carry my. I'm comfortable wearing a kurta and jeans or a pajama into a meeting than uh, I was earlier. Okay, that's so. I feel it has experience has made it easier to just be more comfortable with who I am than. And as a typical Keralite, I don't like to tuck in my shirt. Uh, so and I would be very scared of doing that in my corporate. I now walk in uh, just like I want to, right? I don't tuck in my shirt. These are small changes, but it's very important for me. It's easier for me to be who I am. Uh, when I first walked into Bihar, that was my first social sector engagement. I used to wear my formals, not coat, but formal shirt and pant. And somebody told me 2 weeks into my assignment that people are not able to relate to you. तुम एक तो थोड़ा stop using so much of English and be a little more human in the way you dress. So, uh, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing this, Ajit. I love what you bring in here. And Bachi, anything from you?
Nothing much. I mean, I think Ajit has spoken from his heart. I think that's exactly most of us will go through whenever we are there. And at the same time, we also don't have to, shy away and then shun everything, that we are doing. So don't change your wardrobe in a jiffy. So add few things to your wardrobe so that you can mingle with the crowd, right? That's critical. But I think what is most important, Ajit has stressed on that point towards the end. It's about giving yourself an opportunity or making yourself open for others to approach you. Okay, it could be language, it could be the way that you dress, it could be the way that you move, it could be there's so many cues that we as human beings read, right, constantly. I think having that awareness, self-awareness, and making an effort to be part of the group that you are trying to work with, and at the same time be open enough for the others to come in and approach you. I think that is when that interactions, right, that to and fro is what creates that richness in the interaction. It's not always one way, it is like two ways. For the second way to come to you, you have to open those, you have to open yourself up. What does it take? Does it take not to tuck your shirt in? Does it take speaking broken Hindi or some other language? Does it take, I don't know. I mean, eating the same food that they eat, whatever it takes. You have to make an effort to make yourself open. And trust me, that richness of the interaction, once you experience, it kind of changes you all completely, right? You are a different person, and you can never be the whatever that blazer and tie shirt person anymore. You can still be that, but all I'm trying to say is you have to make an effort to do this. That's the one thing. Just adding on to what Ajit mentioned. Yeah, that's where I start.
I think the whole thing sums up as how you own your new identity by letting go of the previous one and unlearning from there and relearning something new on in terms of how you engage, how you interact, how you own yourself also, and being honest and authentic. I think beautiful. I have really enjoyed this conversation, and I hope people have been able to get some insights from if any of you is thinking of, navigating into this space and even testing it out. And there are various modalities that we have seen. Bachi does this full time. Ajit has he dons many hats, as he says. So a great conversation. Is any other last minute questions that somebody has? We are almost at the end of our session, and I'm so grateful for everyone in this room because everybody brings in questions and flavors. And thank you so much. I hope this has been meaningful for all of you, and you've got some answers that you might have been sitting with on how to navigate into social impact. So. Thank you for joining in, and thank you for being so open and authentic, Bachi and Ajit both. Ajit, you want to say something?
Yeah. One, there is a question which Priyambad has
There's no
asked on the need to take a sabbatical or not,
sabbatical. Yeah.
right? My view, if you are the sorts who needs to step away from a situation to flush your mind out to get something new in, you definitely should. If you're comfortable playing around with multiple things in your head, you don't need to take a sabbatical. You can just walk in. I am the former category. I like to flush things out before getting something in. So everybody, it's a very personal thing. If you have to ask yourself, which side are you, right? And I was just wondering, is it okay for people to switch on their cameras? It'll be good for us to know who we spoke to.
Yes, it'll be really nice.
If it's possible.
Yeah, it'll be great if people can do that. And also just to let everyone know that we look at, we create such kind of interactions and programs and journeys where if you are in a space of transition, we offer a space to reflect, pause, reflect, and you do it one-on-one or in a cohort kind of a space. If at all you need more information, please look at our website. Maybe Vidhi can share this thing a little later. And thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone, for switching on your cameras. And good to see you all and taking time off late in the evening to be a part of this session. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having
me. Yeah, absolutely okay for people. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for giving us the permission.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Yeah. Thank you. Good night. Good evening.